Hello. This should be good. Okay, a mix. Right, I'm back at it. This probably isn't going to be a long one. It's probably an hour and a half. I did some more stuff last night offline. Hopefully I fixed the streaming issues. Um, I fixed. Oh, actually, I'll show you on the mesh so get caught up. I fixed some of the polygon flow issues. I'm still not 100% happy with that, but I've not gotten around to working out how to do it, and I'm a little bit peed off with it. Um, what I did also do was finish the top half of um, the engine cowls. There's other things that I kind of needed polishing, but I was doing something else at the same time that I'd rather not have streamed, just chatting with friends and things like that. There's nothing technique-wise that was really huge. There's some Boolean stuff which I did to make this. This got a bit fiddly. There'll be grates over the front of that, like meshes. Um, but other than that, it's not a huge amount. What I wanted to do, or at least make a start on, is perhaps the most difficult part, which is the cockpit. So I'm just going to grab that. I don't know whether you can hear this. Oh, hang on. Ooh, that's loud. I'm hoping the audio's not too bad. Come on, next track. Right. Okay. So, new layer for the cockpit. Let's go on to the right-hand view. So the trick here, it's a bit of a nightmare if I'm honest. The trick here is to follow those lines and get them to blend down. It's this bit at the top that I really struggle with. There we go, you should be able to see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extrude out. Back into this. If I go into, I don't think we've got a top view, have we? We should have. Right. Yeah, we do have there is a top view, but I've not done the appropriate. So let's duplicate that. If I sound a bit croaky, I've got a really horrible sore throat. Right, so let's rotate this image. If you remember, back in one of the first videos, I was explaining that the drawings may not match the proportions properly on all sides. And this is just a case of that, so it is just a case of, I'm not going to say fake it until you make it, but, you know, there is a certain amount of adjustment to this. So, what I am going to do is just go, we're definitely not on the center line there. I think it's probably easier. Snap's a bit aggressive. So let's do an extrude on that again. So what I want to maintain is this line. I will adapt that later on. Likewise, we're going to change some of this. Now, the boat hull, the profile stays exactly the same throughout the depth, all the way around the curve, up to about here. Up to about here. Excuse me. So just careful, we don't want to move too much. So I'm going to extrude. So what I want is I want the poly line to hit on the edge of the door, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a sec. So I'm just going to get the profile. I'm not too bothered about the top at the minute. Like I say, I'm going to come back to all this later on. So everything north of that is kind of unnecessary at the moment, because we're going to change it all. So what I'm focusing on is getting the side. If I go back down to here, let's find a nice. So what you can see about the way that the line is there, it kind of continues on that shape until you kind of hit this nose of the window, and then starts the curve, and that's what we'll deal with. But if you look at that line, which is the bottom of the window, it's pretty much a straight, it follows the profile of the fuselage we've got already. Everything above that we can adapt later, that's not a problem. So again, what I want to do is we'll go off that line there, and I'm going to move this up. And once we're a bit more established, I'll also add a few more sections in there, so don't worry about that. We'll come back and pad that all out later. I think I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to add a slice in there anyway. I'm going to mute my mic, I'm going to sneeze.
Mic off. Mic on.
There we go. eyes are watering. Yeah, I'm going to add a slice in there. Just put snap back on because it'll snap the line properly. Because I want this to have some arc while I'm doing this. Oh no, I was going to say, look at the old one. Oh. Yeah, I cut that too tight. Okay. So I'm just deciding how to proceed. Yeah, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to concentrate on doing the side panel, ignore the boat hull bottom at the moment, and then we'll come back to that in a bit. Because I'm just going to do a slice and then adapt. Dear God. When you can, it's best to line up certain things with key features on your reference model. So like the windscreen polylines, it's always a good idea to plan to have your polys line up with what would essentially be a seam. A lot of this it's not gonna matter. It just makes it easier to switch between different views, because you can then use the image to line up on like the windscreen edge and things like that. Two, so you don't get lost as much as anything else. I will say, oh sorry. Well, that's the other thing is, the more you go into a curve, the shorter the distance between your loops is going to be as well. You can see how it's there's a set distance there. So that should be slightly shorter. That should be slightly shorter. That's slightly shorter. It's just so you get around a curve. There's no set formula to it. It's just whatever feels right. And I don't want to make it too sharp. That was a ham-fisted. Hang on a sec. Oh dear, I forgot to do something on the phone, so bear with me a moment. Right, it is streaming. Fix me settings. what we're going to end up doing when we do the full sort of hull of it is yeah, it's essentially remaking a lot of this anyway. So right, so what I wanted to do at this point, because of all this arc and everything, is I'm going to do a curve slice. I'm just hanging. I've just thrown myself completely there. Yeah, hang on. Let's just undo that. I think yeah, I've gone off the wrong line. Let's go from. Now I can, if you look at the tool, I can set that to automatic. What this has done now, so I'm just going to cut away all these for a couple of different reasons, but primarily because I don't really want to be constrained by what I've got before. There's a lot of extra verts in here more verts than is needed, so I am going to do a little bit of a cleanup, and I am going to just take off one side. Don't need that one because it's too close to the vert. I do need that curve, so I'm going to leave those as they are. I can probably get rid of that. Let's get rid of that as well, actually. I may choose to subdivide some of these faces later on and clean those up, but right now, it's not important. So I'm going to grab that and just scale it. So part of the reason I've cut away the front of this is you can't actually see it properly, but there is actually a little edge to the hull. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go into my edge tool. That presents a problem because it's kinking in. Clean it out later. Let's see how it looks first. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go grab extend, and I'm going to move it in about 30 mil. I don't actually remember what the dimension was, and the reason I say I don't actually remember is I do remember going and measuring it, which is incredibly sad, I know. But I was surreptitiously wandering around with a ruler at a certain museum near Yeovil and Yeovilton, and stuck a ruler in it, and I went across the line to measure it, which is why I remember it, because I got a very, very dirty look off my ex. She was with me at the time. It was a great one to respect museums. And it's not that I don't respect museums, it's just that these things, they're not a work of art, they are a tool, they're meant to be, you know, seen and used and whatever. So me sticking a ruler next to it is not really going to affect it. But and the other one was a couple of years ago. Seen a German girl. She came over to spend a couple of weeks. I took her to the RAF museum, and Bravo November had just arrived. It's a famous Chinook. If you don't know, served from the Falklands right up to Iraq and Afghanistan. And Chinook blades droop quite a lot. She's walking past and I'm pointing out things to her, and grabbed hold of the rotor and sort of brought it down to the eye line so she could see it properly, and she was absolutely horrified. She was looking around as though we were going to get arrested. Right, so I am going to extend this again, because if I go back to the original model, you can see, oh, it's actually a lot deeper than I was expecting. There is actually a ridge, so for the front of the boat hull, doesn't really show very well there. So you can see that like the hull line is very consistent there, and then it starts to change, and then you get like this prominent ridge in the center. So what I am going to do then, let's go back right here. Let's turn off the old one. So I am going to extend bring that up a little bit. I've just realised I can't see the chat. Give me a second. Right.
Painting right now, but I'm also playing TBC.
Okay, I don't appear to be on Twitch, which is a bit interesting. I thought I was multicasting this, it doesn't really matter. Can't win it every time. Where were we? Right, so what I want to do is grab that. Let's reset the tool. I was chasing shadows. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky because of the angle of I want the depth of the line to stay the same. So as you move forward, and if you don't angle it, or if you angle it in the wrong way, you can see that the depth of the whole line is going to change. And eventually that won't be a problem, but right now it is. So you can see the difference the angle of that makes. And the other thing, somebody asked me about what I meant by polyflow. You can see when the polygons don't flow properly, when the direction makes a difference, makes a change, and it doesn't look quite right. So poly is a polygon, not a tri. It just refers to a face with 3 or more points. Technically, anything more than 4 points is an n-gon. A 4-pointed shape is a quad. 3 is a triangle or tri. It's all different language meaning the same thing. So what I am doing is when I move that, I've see these are my offset coordinates. You can just see it moving there. I'm trying not to change it because of what I want. Where are we? That's the front. What I wanted was this whole line to stay the same, but it's obviously drifting. So what I'm going to do again, I'm trying to get a consistent line and progression on the polygons. We're going to end up cutting them anyway, or at least scaling them down a bit. So I'm not overly worried. I just want them in the right place on the center line. It may prove to be the wrong decision at some point, but you know, so that happens. So, what I'm going to do now, let's go back to the front view. I potentially screwed up, but it won't be the first time. It sure as shit won't be the last. It's more. I think it's probably more a case of I've screwed up my order of operations. Yeah, and this is the point. I'm comparing apples and oranges. Makes no difference, but I'm just annoyed at myself. I do need that top edge, so I do need that center edge rather. Not happy with doing it this way. I might scrap it and do it another way in a minute. try something different. Rather than construct it by faces, let's try. I'm thinking it's a go in, so I'm sorry I'm not explaining anything. What I'm trying to do is get a better arc than the one that I originally drew, or at least marked out. And what that's going to do is give me a smoother transition. That was stupid of me before, but we can recreate that, it's not a problem. When I blew away the rest of the cockpit, I shouldn't have blown away the bit up to the door, wasted a load of time, but I am working this out as I go, so it's not like I had a plan coming in. It's just a case of trying to do the right thing. But it would have been nice to have those doors, so let's recreate that. I've selected the lower frame as well. Dope. So what I actually originally wanted to do with this was go from this corner up, following the line of the door. So I'm just going to briefly undo that. So let's try that slice again. I missed where I was aiming for, but it doesn't really matter. I I was kind of hoping that I'd be able to align that top edge with that slice there, but we can fix that in the edit, as they say. So I am going to take these off, because the next steps for me are to match. So, in theory, if I've got this right, I should be able to drag these back. See, I'm not worried about the X movement because I can scale those back in a bit. So everything from this point onwards is almost irrelevant. Everything from this line north. Again, we may end up changing a lot of this, because I'm certainly going to put a cut line in along that windscreen line there. In fact, I'm going to grab that. I could sculpt a sphere out of this and all sorts of whatever, but I'm not. Because that front windscreen is essentially flat, I'm also not worried about it moving, because I'm going to end up changing a lot of this on that windscreen line. And I'm going to do... turn that... yeah. Kind of got to be careful. Might be better just to do this one at a time. So it's kind of artificial. Trying to get the best flow of polygons that I can. So I'm going to remove this edge. And then I'm going to grab a slice line. I'm going to grab those edges again. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that each of these edges, these lines are a tangent to the curve that you can see. So again, just want to skip to the top view. Make sure that I'm not a million miles out. So we're going to go bevel. I'm going to change that down to a round level of 1. Do the same thing with that. I will say, someone asked me the other day about this. I tend to make the model that I want to see in game first, and that will give me the general shape of everything. And that way I can control poly counts and things like that. Then I'll make high polys on top of that over that model, and then I will bake whatever I need to bake. I know a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people go all out on the high poly and then reduce down and re-topo. I came up with my methodology purely because of the old ways. When we were in OFP era and Arma, you had a very, very tight poly count. What I'm going to do is grab that polyline there and drag it back a little bit. That way it looks like it's a smoother arc. Yeah, so when we're in OFP, you had like 5,000-6,000 faces was the recommended for a plane or something, a vehicle of some sort anyway. And it was just easier to make and then kind of paint your details on or bake your details on that you needed to do. So, looking at this to get the lines that I need. That's going to be counterproductive. I need to produce a line. So if I grab that. So by doing this, I now know that this face is perfectly aligned with that cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it. So you can see as it creeps up. I can then move this to the edge there. And I can use that as a guide to cut or to slice, which allows me to come back to this. So I can cut this back a little bit to a kind of a height that I want. There is method in this madness, trust me. You're gonna have to trust me. So I'm just going to move that back into the cockpit block for the moment, but it's still there. So, what I can do now and maintain my polyflow and curve and whatever else. Let's just not fuck about. Let's just do this up here. Let's move it. So I want to move it up to this top line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that and scale it so it matches roughly where my windscreen is. And this is the bit that Sir English was kind of more interested in when he was asking about how I did this in the links. So what I've got is I've screwed up and gone to the wrong line. So I'm just going to undo that for a moment. So what I want to do is I want to drag that to there. And I need to do the same thing again, so I need to go back to my right hand view. Right, and because I want a consistent band, I'm going to do it off the leading edge of that, so I just removed the line. So let's go back down to here as well. What I'm going to do, I think, is just remove that. That way I'm not fucking around with any extra edges. I can come and fix that again in a moment, so don't worry about that at the moment. So again, what I want to do is I am going to use edge extend again and move it up to the next level. So just to illustrate this, I want to keep this pillar the exact same width all the way down, so I am going to adjust and freak. But what I'm going to do now is just slice here. So that should, in theory, since we're thinking in 3D, give me a nice top edge. So it's going to need some cleaning up of it, but it's not going to cost me too much if I just grab those. So if I grab that top edge now and we go to the top view, it's going to need some adjustment. So I can hook onto that point. Again, we're going to have to clean up this bottom edge as well, so I'll undo that. Let's remove that edge because that reduces the number of polys that we're going to be ended up fighting with. So what I want now so that should be where the look at this. That should be this line here. That bar there. So what I want to do is create a control or at least the final position for it. So we are a little bit out of position, so I'm just gonna use my judgment and scale to what I think it should be. So what I'm going to do now as well is you can see how the windscreen lines, the poly lines are not flowing properly for the windscreen. This is where I wasn't too bothered about the centerpiece. Remember I said that centerpiece is flat. So we're going to scale this back. So it's not going to be quite like that. There is a tweak to it. It is just, I hate to say it, but there is a lot of manual frig to this just to make it look. I am just tempted to get rid of that. Which means we can get rid of this entire line. So you can see, it's perhaps not the best view on that one, but you can see that the large flat piece there from the windscreen down, and you can see the curve goes to the center of that screen there, but is at a different rate. So I'm not stressing about it. Again, there's no magic solution to this, at least none that I'm aware of or have found, so if someone knows a better way to do this, I would be over the moon if somebody would tell me. Just that this is just the way that I do it. get the original loft drawings, or at least a digital copy of the lofting. So I'm going to do a little bit of line maintenance now. Let's get rid of that first. See, I don't like this line here. Because of the line cleanup that I've been doing, it's adjusted the arc a little bit. I'm kind of feeling that this is probably a better way to do this. Everyone remember 321. .5. Just realised I didn't explain what a loft was. I was about to say in pre-computer-aided design days, but they actually still use lofts now. Lofts are essentially panel lines or flow lines. They allow sheet workers and sheet metal workers and composite jig workers to check that the things they are making are accurate and have the right shape and, excuse me, polygon flow. Just gonna grab that. So just zeroed those. So if I come out of here now, oh dear. Okay. So we do a bit of cleanup to do. Because of the way that I've done this, and those faces are now inside out, you can see the polygon flows a little bit cleaner and smoother, and it is a bit of a convoluted process, and I do apologise if I've lost anybody along the way. Wasn't intentional. But you can see I've kind of screwed up because I now have to adjust all of these to match the hull, which somewhere along the way I forgot about. So I am going to clean out those just to make my life a little bit easier. Let me turn off the background so the contrast is a little bit easier to see. So yeah, don't do what I do, just yeah. This is not a how-to channel. This is this is what I did channel. I guess to borrow from another a YouTuber I've been watching recently. Bugger. I'm quite annoyed with myself now. Right, so we're good on that line. So what I need to do is grab everything below that. And we're just scaling down. So it's 98.7 degree, 98.7 was the last one. This is looking like 98.55. Yep. That's 96.5. It's asking me if I'm still watching. I'm not even going to try and scale this one. I am just going to snap it. Clean up the messes. If I could, I would literally engineer all of my models, but there's just a lot of artistic license needs to happen, so it happens. Right. Yeah, I might end up remaking that bottom piece because that's not behaving how I want it to behave. You can see the difference. I'm just going to grab. Doesn't look too bad. Probably better to do that like that so you can see the polygons, but yeah, there's a lot to fix, to be honest. I've made a bit of a dog's dinner of that. I can see a number of issues. The polys are not flowing properly or smoothly. So it's this bar that's going to cause some problems. But it always does. I don't know whether you can see this, but it's popping out a little bit too much. So I'm trying to work out. Yeah, it's more the trailing edge that's causing the problem. But that trailing edge is also the straight part of the door, so that isn't going to be the thing that we fix. So let's just try something. You can see the difference if I highlight the shape behind it. So there's a couple of things I can do. I only sacrifice these edges because, again, I'd like it to be straight because that's where the window is, and those windows are fairly straight. Oh, they are actually slightly curved, aren't they? Could perhaps rescue it with a control line through the window. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to grab a point there. So, the mismatch continues, but we're getting closer. I'm not going to bother scaling these upper lines, but I am just going to move them. I'm going to keep saying this because it's me being defensive as much as anything else. What I'm doing doesn't necessarily is not necessarily the right way. It's just the way that I'm doing it. Trying to recover the cock up that I've obviously made, and I'm definitely not immune to making cock ups, as you've already seen. So I don't know. That needs adjusting. Let's make this material just a little bit lighter. Is that easier to see? Yeah, there's just something. There you go. It's not exactly on the right tangent. So none of that edge is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove that edge, and I'm going to reslice it. But that's going to mess with this now. So I am going to grab that edge. You can see the kink in it. We don't want the kink. Some days kink is good. Most of the time, you don't want to kink in public. You don't want your kinks to be seen. So that will correct that glass piece there. And what I can then do, this is probably actually very unnecessary. Given what we're talking about. So I'll join you down here. Again, I want to make it so the polygons flow a little bit smoother, or it looks like they're flowing a little bit smoother. Many years ago, when I used to work in CAD/CAM design, I had a boss who used to constantly complain about me looking at my models. In the pre-visualizer. I was still learning the software at the time. I was trying to understand how the tool was moving, but he got always stroppy that I should be coding, not visualizing. So it's a bad habit I've retained. It's bad for productivity. I maintain it's still probably one of the better things to do. Waffle. So this is the bit that I really don't like, and it's just assuming that we've got the arc how we want it, which, looking at that, there's something of an issue there. So the logical way to do this, or the easy way to do this, is to keep moving these up. But the problem is, we're going to end up with like a set of crunched polygons. It's not going to be a nice smooth transition, because we now have, let's see, we have 16 polygons that we now have to join to 7. Yeah, just got a message from a friend. Right, so I am going to cheat a little bit on this one. Sorry, I'm easily distracted these days. So I've just merged a face, so we don't have to worry about. We've got one less face to worry about. So go to edge extend, snap on. going to go and scale, so I'm going to use the right hand to do this. And while we're here, we might as well exploit the next one. Alright, so straight away, we're looking at poly arc down. So what I am going to do at this point, now that I have a second loop and I can clean up, didn't realise that. Dear. So abrupt transitions in polyflow will actually show up in your normals and things like that, so don't want to do that. So I'm going to delete those. We'll clean up that stray face. So in Modo, if you select 3 points, it's the last point that it'll merge to. Or you select any point and try and merge them, it'll always be the last point that you touch that it merges to. Right, so we've got a bit of a drift. So you can see the problems we've got with getting now. It's diminishing returns. So it now just becomes a case of scaling and flowing. Looks like there's compound curve in this as well, so I don't think we're going to get away from most of this without having a little bit of a tweak. if I grab all of that edge and extend it, vertex joint average. Excuse me. This has all of a sudden got very crowded up here, so I'm going to decimate a couple. I'm going to merge a couple of the verts. The logic behind doing this is lots of verts in small spaces creates very small polygons, and you don't necessarily want very small polygons because the texture doesn't apply to them properly, or rather it's a lot of processing power for a very small area. So unless you are really close to it, and you are minutely inspecting something, don't do it. So that, if I make it shiny, as I move it around, it re-renders. It shouldn't look too bad. So if I grab these edges, so the mesh cleanup is either flipped or merged. Polygon there. So I don't know how long this has been running for now. Oh, 45 minutes according to this, but I need to go for a pee. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a quick break. I will be back a minute, 2 minutes, and we'll finish the bottom. Right, that's me back. I think there's probably a better way to do this. I don't like that gathering up there. Let's go to the top again. Um, Sorry, I'm just kind of quietly thinking to myself how I can improve this. It's just a nasty. I came back, sat down, looked at it, and went, "Yeah, that's not." It's pretty much unnecessary because there's obviously we're going to make some cuts for this. Every once in a while, you do something and you look at it afterwards and go, "Yeah, that was bloody stupid," or "I know I could do that better." And that is pretty much where I'm at right now. As I said, I think earlier on, if it's something that doesn't look right, don't be afraid to stop and redo it. Um, you see me stop and restart a couple of times in this. It doesn't matter. If you don't think you're doing it right, try again. Just, it may take a few tries, but if it doesn't feel right at the time, don't do it. Just walk away, come back later, and fresh eyes, etc. It's part of the reason. I mean, I get a lot of shit for taking so long to do stuff, but that's part of the reason it takes so long to get my stuff out. And the majority, I will say, I'm quite proud of. Um, it's kind of egotistical to say that there isn't any better stuff out there, because there definitely is. I've seen quite a lot of it, but I'm kind of proud of what I did. So I every time I open this bloody software, I try and find a better way to do things. So. And I will tell you this honestly, making models is frustrating as hell. Making anything for this game series is frustrating, so don't expect instant results, because it does not happen. And if you stick at it, it's really rewarding. And I have genuinely made some of the best friends of my life due to this game and this hobby. And it's kept me sane when everything else around me's gone to shit. So. And I know plenty of people have made their hobby into a job, into a business. That is mixed blessings, I will tell you that. Once you turn something you love into something that you have to do for money, it gets a little bit awkward. Um, is it asking me for... Yes, it is. Um, sorry, having a little bit of a think. So I want to eliminate pinch. And the logical way to do that is just to wipe out those polygons. And do this. So that should be a better polyflow in theory. It's still not. Still not great, but the software will do a better job of decimating it down later. Just trying to find a nice way to get a fairly smooth finish right now. See if I just grab all these verts. And open the smooth tool, which I just did. To some degree, I'll use control of the shape. Just take a second for it to render. Yeah. Not happy with the way that it's worked out, but you can see how it's kind of started to smooth. We'll address that later on. But right, I want to get the boat face done. So I'm going to delete this because I don't need it anymore. I'll go back and get my original hull piece so I can get my angle. So again, redoing a bit of work we did earlier. So piece of software to do something. I absolutely got sucked into when Object Builder was O2 back in the day. I absolutely got sucked into vertex building rather than poly sculpting or whatever. But at the time, it was most CAD programs or 3D programs were horribly CPU and GPU intensive, and at the time I was traveling and I had an absolutely terrible Toshiba laptop, and it was good for the era. It just was not a CAD or games machine. And O2 was amazing. And just to give you an idea, if you Google it, a lot of the stuff that I did under RKSL and for VBS was made in Object Builder, or in O2 at the time. And everyone that I know in this community absolutely hates Object Builder. But back in the day, when that was all we had, it's just what you used. And I could make some really nice stuff in it. The original Lynx AH7H, AH7 and 8 and 9 and 9A, SH13, all done in Object Builder. I've been using Modo for I don't even know how long now. Probably 20 years in its various incarnations. And I still haven't gotten around to using nearly 90% of its functions. That's a pretty damning thing to admit, but it's such a capable bit of software that it's really hard to get or use everything in it. I've used it for animation. I've used it for renders and even painting, because you can paint in it. It's not as good as Substance or something like that. But even that, Substance has got some problems, which I kind of thought Adobe would fix. I thought they'd make Substance more like Photoshop, and in some ways I guess they have, but it still isn't Photoshop, and the Photoshop integration it's good, but it's not brilliant. So I am scaling these, and I am just purely guessing at this point, because I may have to scale everything differently, and we'll do a curve cut or something. Let's probably do a curve. Yeah, Substance, if you haven't used it, it is brilliant. If you have, and you're trying to do things that you'd normally do in Photoshop, you'll understand kind of why I'm frustrated. It is an incredible piece of software, but there is so much more that could be done to make it better. don't think many people would disagree with that. But I also think that Adobe hasn't really got much interest in improving the Photoshop features of it. I'm not a great fan of Adobe anyway, they screwed me. So I will be frequently found cursing them out and whatever. They screwed me out of about. It depends how you count it, but it's around about maybe 3.5 to 5 or 6 grand, depending. I bought a Adobe Master Suite from a licensed reseller that was on their vendor list, and used it for about 18 months, and then my license suddenly stopped working again. It started coming up going unlicensed software. So I contacted the Adobe support and said, well, it's my license. Turns out that the vendor that I'd bought it from had been bought by somebody else and had been reselling the keys. But my license had been validated and registered with Adobe, and Adobe refused to honor that license. But before they refused, they said, oh, just create a Creative Cloud one and we will sort it out. Just when they move into cloud. And I did everything they said, and then they proceeded to try and charge me something like about £200 a month. So I was not happy, and they screwed me ever since. So they refused to honour the original license. They deactivated the key, so it's not like I could even reinstall anything. So I was not a happy camper. I bought Photoshop again because I needed it, and then I've refused to update it ever since, because every time that I update it, something horrible goes wrong with it. Come on. I had Substance before Adobe bought it as well. And algorithmic selling to Adobe was like, it was almost my worst nightmare. It was just, yeah. I was not a happy camper. So, if I've got this right, lazy way. So, if I grab those and scale them back, we should be on the right lines. Oh shit. Sorry, getting messages about tonight. I'm supposed to be going out with friends, but they appear to be having babysitter problems. It's either that or they're going to elaborate ends to ghost me. Right, so I am going to change perspective on this right now because this is the space mouse. You can see that. It's kind of started to it's like a mouth from a car in a Disney movie. So what I need to do is tweak. If I go quiet, it's not the mic dropping, it's just me being a dithering old idiot. Don't grow, kids, it's a trap. Honestly, most days I'm lucky if I can find my car keys. I'm gonna get this final bit of bolt hole done, and then we'll take a look at where we are, and then I'm gonna probably call it. Because it looks like I'm gonna be going around my friend's house for a rather probably quite chilly barbecue or pizza making session. Someone gave him a pizza oven for Christmas, which is a nice present, don't get me wrong. I'm just kind of wondering about the seasonal timing of it. So they've been trying to dying to try it out for a while. So I'm not unhappy with how that's kind of turning out. That looks pretty good. As with everything else, it's finishing the final bit that is always the pain. view. So you can see how the curve has kind of vanished. So let's clean all this up. What I'm aiming for is a curve that kind of resembles the prow of a boat. Because that is essentially what the bottom of a Seaking is. They were designed to float, and someone told me this, and I don't know. I don't doubt his word. But I just wonder about the context of it. It's designed to be driven through the water, which, given how the rotor angle on a helicopter works, I'm a little bit surprised about, given the shape of a boat hull. But I get what he means. I've seen a Seaking being towed in water, not in real life, in a movie, not a movie, a documentary about the Seaking. Strangely enough, one went down. It was, I want to say, off the coast of New Zealand, but I don't know that it was now. But they literally got the life rafts out. They landed on the water. It was a bit of a firm landing. They got the life rafts out and waited for rescue. And they all sat in this, 18-person life raft, and just had a. It wasn't like sunny. It wasn't stormy weather or anything. And they just had to bob around for a couple of hours until the rescue turned up. At which point they literally just latched onto the boat, got all the people back onto the. I was going to say, I think it's a fishing boat or something, but I don't think it was. I think it was a Coast Guard. I think the fishing boat turned up and made sure they were alright. Waited around till the Coast Guard turned up, and this Coast Guard cutter just literally threw a line out to them. I think they folded the props, the rotor, I'm not sure. Just towed it. It's a long time ago, so I don't know, but yeah, I just can't imagine the main rotor blades having enough to drive the boat through the water, because the majority of the force is going backwards, but it's down and backwards, and it's off the front, so it's not exactly a pusher prop. So this is where I am going to use the smooth tool. Still not doing what I want it to do, but so let's grab this line. just seen something on my Discord DMs. So one of my mates is asking what versions I'm going to do. Primarily the British ones, but what I actually want from the Seaking sort of airframe is I want a Pelican, an HH3F for another project I'm working. So that's the entirety of the reason I chose to do this right now. I know a lot of people want a British Seaking, especially given Arma 3 and Reforge's sort of Cold War focus. I will say this now, I'll be very clear about this, is I am not going to release this for Reforger. I seriously doubt, nothing against it, I just seriously doubt that I'm going to have the time and the skills to get what I want out of it in Reforger. But I'm making a lot of stuff now for Arma 4 so that I don't get the sort of criticism leveled at me that, oh, you've shown us these pictures but it never got released. And I've done a lot of that, I'll freely admit it, it's not a problem. But there's been reasons behind that. Health, interest, the attitude of the community as well in a lot of cases has been pretty miserable. You know, if you're gonna shit on somebody, you're gonna ruin their motivation. And I spent a lot of time helping other teams and other people and other individuals, and I got bitten a few times on that. I screwed up with vetting people. So that's kind of, if you can't trust somebody you thought of as a friend, who do you trust, you know? And you know, you discover a lot about people when things get tense. And I discovered a few people in my life that I don't really like the way that they approach everything, the way they approach the rest of their lives and the way they treat other people. So that's kind of been an education. That, and I've also stopped trying to appease those sorts of people. I've stopped arguing with them. It's just more a case of you do you, I do me. But if you do something that affects me negatively, I am going to tell you. And there's been quite a few people that don't like that, so my entire attitude of that was, well, screw you. I've got a pass-through selection somewhere in there, I can see it. And there's something, I don't know, there's something in society these days, I'm not trying to get too political or anything like that, but something in society these days that everyone's sort of tolerance for everybody else's opinion seems to have vanished. There's almost no respect for anything anymore. A sense of entitlement and selfishness is amazing. It's a grumpy old man moment. Ah, shit. Alright. Dope. Come on. Why are you not? Have I missed the tool somewhere? I've got a tool active somewhere, I think, and yeah, I turned the tool off, that's why. Duh. Turn tool visibility off. So if I so I'm not unhappy with that. You can see the curve come in, but if you go and you can't really see it on that picture. I don't think I've actually got a Seaking fully square on. You can see it there. There's a little bit of a wobble. I can correct a certain degree of that because there's no doubt that it has kind of crept in. You can see that. It's just folded in a little bit too much. if we turn all this back on, I need to clean some crap out of it. There we go, let's get rid of that. That can go. So, you can see that the kind of the whole boat hull aspect of it now. Tail boom needs fixing, but you can see it's coming along. I think that's all I'm going to do on stream, at least today. Might come back on later on, but I need to get ready and go out shortly. I need to go to the shop as well. But you can see where the boat hull and it kind of comes in, and if I can match it up, yeah, it's a bit too dark, it's not the best example, but there's a better one that we can. So you can see the ridge in the centre there that we've got. It could perhaps be a little bit deeper. Obviously you need to cut out for the lights and whatever, but we'll go back and when we do all the doors and the windows, we'll do all that at the same time. So yeah, I think we're gonna call it there. I don't know that there's anything that I can do quickly other than perhaps continue to clean up a few bits, and that's just me umming and ahhing and going, does that look right? Is that better? We don't need to see it or hear it. Like I say, I hope anybody that's watching this is getting something out of it other than listening to a boring old fart talk to himself. Trying to make it as interesting as possible. Like I say, there are things that I'm doing here that I'm sure there are better ways to do it, and if there are, I'm open to learning. I genuinely am. If somebody knows a better way, I'm quite happy to listen and at least debate it. I am still a little bit unhappy about the way that the polygons are flowing there. I'm gonna have a little bit of a think about how that goes forward, but what may happen is I take the polys on this line and we kind of build over. Not sure. I like the fact that there's a split in there and it bends the polygons bend different ways, but we will see. Anyway, that is, I think, me done for the moment. The plan tomorrow is, at the very least, finish the tail boom. It's only just got like half of it over, and it's, well, it is largely mirrored. There's some issues around it. What I then want to do is, you can see on the plans here, the sponsons, which are these outrigger wheels. There's various different versions of them. I'm gonna do the ones you can see in the pictures and the one for the HC4, which is the Commando variant. I also need to cut out the doors and things like that, but we can do that. That's probably gonna be Monday's version, I think. Um, yeah, I can't really see much more. Anyway, so if you're watching this and you're getting something out of it, great. I really hope you get something. If you find it entertaining, whatever, please comment whatever. If you need a suggestion, you know, put something in there. I'll certainly. I'm open to ideas. Um, but yeah, I would say that's where we are today. So enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and hopefully I will see you again another time. Thank you very much.